Hello, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jack Blade, and today we're doing video number 4 in our full logistics guide. Remember, this is a method that I've developed over the years, inspired by City Planner Plays, talk about how they do city planning and road layout planning. Now, something to keep in mind is if you haven't watched the past 3 videos, I highly recommend at least watch the first one. Don't necessarily need to watch all the other ones. If you're just looking to how to put it all together in the end, then this is the video for you. Now, thank you so much for all the support on the past videos. What we need to do now is finish this baby up and actually build the factory. We've made the blueprints, we've simulated, we have planned, we have talked, we have done stories, we have done all of it. Now it comes down to this last little bit where we build our factory. How does this work? What are the steps? How do we finish this? That is what we will get into. Now, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and do all the things, because these long format series videos, whatever you want to call it, they are poison in the algorithm, and your support shows that you really want these kinds of videos, and it counters the gods of YouTube so that I can put food on the table. Thank you so much for this, and we will just get straight into it. So we're going into fruits of your labor. This is the theme of this video. Planning step 5. And then we have the building order of operations, where we actually build everything. And then I will have some finishing thoughts and comments on the video series and how you would apply it. So please stay tuned. We will do our absolute best to make sure that you are entertained and blown away with some very good information. Let's get into planning step 5. Planning step 5 is more of a checklist other than anything else. So the thing is that we need to look at is what I've written down here, at least. Use the data from all the previous steps to create the needed surface area needed in your factory. Have we done that? We have. We have every single surface area in the factory, all the logistics, plus the faucets over there, they are all planned for. Remember, you will probably need twice the area you think, especially for junctions and local lines. So as you can see, there's plenty of space for the local lines. All the gray areas here are spaces that we can use for the local lines. And then, to make things easy for beginners, when you are building a larger factory like this, please use a logistics floor. One production floor where you place all the machines, and a logistics floor. And I have very simply to make how big should a logistics floor be? It's verticality that is more important than anything else. And it should be at least 2 4-meter foundations tall. I'm not going to be using a logistics floor necessarily, it's not going to look like it, because I want to have a very clear overview of everything. So I have making sure that everything here is to the T, to make sure that it's easy for new players as well to follow along with what we are building here. There are other ways that you can build, and one of them that I really like is when you do stuff like this, where, okay, here's all my messy logistics for my motor factory in Clearhaven in the Let's Play world that I have. Once again, Let's Play is shut down, but I am streaming that, so if you want to see me building in this world, head on over and check out the streams. It's a mix between, sometimes I play this, sometimes I play Path of Exile, sometimes we start with this and head on over to Path of Exile when I get tired, stuff like that. But yeah, essentially what I wanted to show is, here we go, we have the assemblers here. They are making rotors, right? They're making rotors, and I think over here, yeah, we're just making rotors everywhere, rotors as far as the eye can see, right? There's nothing else being made on this floor. So I have a logistics floor for this, but on top of that, I also have a 1 floor per production line rule for a lot of what I do. What are we looking at? Yeah, well, we're looking at the outline of where I could place foundations. 80 foundations, and that number is very, very specific. Not 80 in and of itself, but it's an even number. Why is this? Why am I doing that? Well, that is because I want every piece of a factory, every section, to have a center line that is between two foundations. And the reason why I want to do this is to have a very clear way of measuring visually when I build. So that I have my center line is right here. This is my center line, not a single foundation. Because if I want to build something centered, now I can place it here. I don't have to do the whole, am I placing it correct, and move back and forth. I can go, it's in the middle, done. No problem. Even better, I can go, it's middle, done. Because I have these crossing intersections. So it's something to be very clear about when it comes to this entire methodology that I want to bring up a little bit is like all of this is like if you're trying to learn this methodology, you need to follow all the rules, but once you feel you have a grip on it, then you can let it go. You can skip, you can break the rules, you can try new things and do it, because I do that. Otherwise, I would get bored. I would get bored out of my skull if I only built according to this every single time. However, that does come with a few risks. One of the biggest ones is I misplan space, because one of the things that I'm challenging myself with right now is trying to basically be able to eyeball the perfect amount of space without actually planning it out as detailed as I have over here. So, because that is one of the big time consumptions. So if I can just look at something and go, okay, that's how much space it needs, then I have a big win on my hands. So that's one of the things that I'm challenging myself with right now. And I want to show an example of how that almost worked, but did not really work. We are back in the Let's Play world. And this time I want to show you, because you can look in front of you, you can see on the screen, we have a lot of good stuff. Logistics is clear, it's laid out, the junction in front of you is perfect, no notes, nice. However, part of this factory makes fuel. And here is a big problem with how this is laid out in terms of space. Look at this. This was not intended. I did not want this. This became a necessity for how I made the factory. I did not want to send the empty canisters back to be recycled and used again in the output line of the fuel. I did not want to do this. However, because of space constraints over here, you can see it would be a really messy thing to try and get it out all the way over here and then send it back over. Color and texture code more than you think you need. I'm not just talking about this. As you can see, I have just colored these in, but in certain factories, you're not using these. However, mixing your foundation materials is perfectly valid. So, if you want to go like, no, I don't want logistics, like there cannot be extra logistics, say, here. This is a dead space. I can't put anything here, because I'm planning on having something else over here. And that means that this place is a no-go for building. So texture marking as well as color coding is super important. I could have marked all of my pathways with asphalt, that would have worked, but I chose to just use color coding and keep it simple. But you have not just the like fixed foundations here. You don't just have the coloring, you also have patterns, you have arrows you can be using. Remember, use your customization tool for more than just coloring. It will be so much better if you spend the time doing that. And one of the really important details to talk about when color coding is your pipes. Every single other thing in the game, if you're good at it, you don't need to color code. If you can keep it in your head, if you are good at like separating the stuff and you have a good visual like clarity and everything, no problem, but your pipes should always be color coded. These are water, oil, heavy oil residue, and fuel. Easy. because that's the color of the liquid. Like it's that simple. I have this pipe to show that it has not been color coded, that I have not designated what it is yet. The building order of operations, which is actually us building everything. And the building order of operations can help so much if you just get this right. So we will do that as I build the factory. We're going to start with a logistics life lesson. You can apply this everywhere in life. In factory planning, we always go from the finished product and work our way backwards. The reason for this is you need to know what you want to achieve to understand what it takes to get there. The bigger the goals, the more steps, the more complexity. And each production step exponentially increases the required resources. This is super important to keep in mind. If you just, let's say, want to finish college, sure, fine. But if you want to finish college and then go on and get a doctorate in something and then start researching, and you also want to ultimately go to the corporate section and make this much money and run this kind of company and become this amount of successful, each of those steps not only adds time, it adds an insane amount of complexity. Interpersonal relationships need to function, you need to have the experience, you need to have the mechanics of everything going on. And the same thing here. We talked about this before, where the power requirements could probably be halved if I did not add the computer production part of this step. That extra step adds so much complexity. Now, then we have the other side of this. In applying the logistics, we always build from the faucets and forwards, right? The reason for this is that even if you know what you want to achieve, as in you've done your factory planning and what it takes to do so, if the capacity to acquire resources, recover resources so that you can keep going and move the required resources into the right place, if that is not in place, you will only reach a fraction of your goals. You will burn out. You will get stonewalled for promotions. You might not be able to finish the school because you're not getting the grades that you need to. And you're looking at time, you're looking at energy, you're looking at everything. And that is all logistics. Figure your logistics out, plan your factory, and you can get anywhere in life. Okay? That's my logistics life lesson. It's how all of this is planned. It's how we will apply it. These factories work the same. Literally everything does. Just ask yourself before you start something, are you planning a factory or are you planning logistics? So that you plan from the right direction. If you do that, you'll be fine. Number 1 are fixed points. There are certain points in this factory and over where we pick up our resources that will be immutable. They're non-negotiable. They need to go where they go. We cannot change that. So those things will be placed first. And what are we talking about then? We're not talking about the junctions. The junctions are super important, but they are one of the most dynamic places in the factory because we need to build that by hand to make sure that we get the resources where we need to in the right rates. So we need to have the space and the dynamic flexibility for load balancing and all that kind of stuff. What is permanent and non-negotiable is where the main line is and how big the main line is. What is also non-negotiable is where the machine groups go. That is something that will never change. And that means that we can start placing down all of these. We can start placing down our main lines. We can start placing down these because that's not moving. We can place down our drones, our train lines. We can place down the world resource highway because that thing is also not moving. The storage is going to be where it is. That's one we can place down. And we can place down these, the pathways. Actually, the pathways might actually be the first thing we need to place down. Why? Because that's where our power logistics comes in. And getting our power figured out and where that is and where our nodes are is super, super, super important. This over here is just like a theoretical like control room kind of thing. So yeah, either way, we basically need to set down our stuff that will not move, that will, like, we will have to build around them rather than change how they are to make things work. What we can change is all of our local logistics. All of that, and all of our collectors, all of our junctions, they are flexible, and they need to be, because that's how we make things work. So I'm going to start placing down all the paths, and we have our blueprints for that. I didn't show those in the last one, but we have a bunch of blueprints. I made these. They are available on the Google Drive. So in the Discord, there's a link, and we have a bunch of different like versions here of everything that you guys can try out and see if you like these pathways. They have like power connected underneath them. There's versions with and without pillars. We need to get going and get our paths up and running. So I will just place them down. And here's the important bit. All of this is what we call wireframing. Wireframing is the act of setting something up in a fast mock-up way so that you can see the general shape of it before you commit to it. That is why in no way, shape, or form, under no circumstances, are you to place down anything that is not a blueprint or something that you can't just remove with a single click. As in, if I place down this, let's say the path, let's see, where do we have our paths? Yeah, I need to sort these two. That's also something. Sort your blueprints. Walkway with power. There we go. So I want to place you here. Easy peasy. Boom. I can easily remove this. I can go in and I can remove this entire thing with a single click, like this. If you need to change something with any of your blueprints so that they work better for your wireframing, change them in the blueprinter and then apply. Change in the blueprinter and then apply. So remember, have a blueprinter close by where you're building so that you can easily adjust your blueprints so that they fit your what's it called, wireframing. Now we need to put out all the paths and connect up power. So let's do that. I also want to like talk about something very, very simple here. Remember, this is a building trick that is nowhere in no books, no nothing. This is something that I try to share with my viewers that works really, really well. But if I, and this is a fun one, if I open this, the dismantling tool and change it to dismantle mode blueprint, and then I eyedrop, as in I middle mouse click to pick it up, boom, I pick up the blueprint. Ta-da! Not just the block that I'm looking at. So if you want to, you can just have your palette out, right? And from there, just be able to pick up what you need. Ta-da! Simple as that. If you liked that, if you didn't know about this, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and tell me how much I blew your mind in the comments. Now, I need to keep going here. There we go. As you can see, I've started this out, and I've also started to put in some of the manual work, but that's exactly where we're going right now with this. So I've wireframed out every single turn, every corner, where everything is gonna go. What I haven't put in is like the straights, because there's a lot of manual work that is required. You can see that there's a lot of like overlapping placement of blueprints. That needs to be fixed. Those are a few like manual tasks that needs to be done. Some of the adjustments that needs to be made for this to look good and not be like clipping and like all that kind of stuff. This is of course like a thing you can pick yourself if you want to do or not, and how detailed you want to be with blueprints, and how much you want to do manual. Like that's up to you. But what I'm going to do is kind of what I've done over here. As you can see, I have adjusted some of this stuff so that it looks better, where you can see I've placed in like single foundation blueprints. I have those over here and stuff like that. So I'm just going to clean everything up. You can see I've already started over here with a connection to the main path here. And I'm going to keep going around and doing all of that and making sure that everything is connected up with power. You can see I have the power lines underneath here. So I basically need to make sure that all of this is connected with power lines and that they are like running that power all across the entire like factory, so that we can easily connect up all of our machine groups later when we put those down. So as you can see, we now have walkways. They are very nice and I love them. Now, I have made them, so to speak, like walkable, and I have basically included like everything from like ladders to connecting up to our main connection over there, to being able to communicate with the trains, to like literally everything is put in here, including, if we go down underneath, all of the power. If we look in underneath one of these, it looks weird, but it is connected so that every single piece of power in this factory is in fact connected up to this main line. To make sure that no problems occur, the only connection into the main line happens over here on the far end of the factory, and that is through a priority power switch. And you can, like, this should never be connected up to a main group. I'm gonna talk to them about that when we go to the machine groups. Not the main group, machine groups. But yeah, everything is connected in through here. There is no other way in or out for the power aside from what's gonna be the rail line later. And that in and of itself is going to also be controlled with a priority power switch, so that is a separate thing. There should always be a priority power switch between the trains and your factories that are connected to that power. And the reason for that is specifically so that you can control the power on and off for your train lines. Because sometimes you need to save power and trains need to go. Now, we need to make sure we have our machine groups in place. So we're gonna go in with all of our machine group blueprints, and we're gonna start setting that up. This is a great opportunity to check out that your blueprints are aligned properly, that they fit properly, and if needed, you adjust them in the blueprinter. You don't adjust them manually. You only connect up the logistics, like so. This is the only part that you need to consider, like this is something you might need to fix, okay? So with this, we have our copper smelters. Very simple, and like it doesn't take a lot of time, but we're essentially going to go through and do this for every single machine group in the entire factory so that we have all that down. And because we already know exactly how much, because we have marked that, we have checked that, we have simulated that, it's gonna be very simple. We have our blueprints, we have everything like lined up, and here we go. We have pretty much everything in terms of machine groups put out. Now we need to put out the main lines, and I will talk a little bit about them later when we get to like connecting up junctions and collectors and stuff like that. But yeah, let's go. All right, so they are in, quick and easy, just smacking down blueprints. I decided to go with the empty ones so that I can be more adaptive. And then I am going to connect up, and this is the final like permanent staple kind of thing that we're putting in, and that is the World Highway or World Resource Highway. So let's put those in, and I will explain a little bit about how they work and how I've been thinking. Let's talk about this. When you're making railways, you don't build your stretches first, you build your corners. You need to measure out, and that is what these are for, where your railway is gonna go. You make your corners, and you can see I will measure it out. So there is a 3, 4, 5 with the center, with the third one in the corner, right? And the same thing over here, and I placed in temporary blocks like this, temporary foundations, to make sure that I can do this. And now it just hovers there, right? Same thing, I forgot what this one, boom. So I have my floating curves like this, and then the rest just happens the way it does. but you need to put in your corners first. And the reason for this, I'm going to be very clear about this, is that when you get to certain places, like the middle of certain places, you will get this funny looking problem. Okay? Where if I place this in now, that is not centered. You can see that it overlaps and takes up that. I cannot have that, which means that this needs to be moved back so that it ends here. And I can only do that if I start and build from that corner to the center between them, and from that corner to the center between them. So when you're building railways, super important that you think about this when you're building them. To make it easy for yourself, like if you're just building on a straight road, like it's just a back and forth kind of thing, you don't really care about the symmetry of things, then I suggest using these blueprints where you have the railway placed in. That makes it a lot easier for certain things. However, otherwise, I would suggest that you use the empty platform so that you can modify and change your, what's it called? Railway, without it interfering with the blueprint itself. So you can remove your blueprint without problems. Otherwise, my suggestion is if you're using these, that you always stop. So you always make the railway end up one step in. If you stop at the edge of the blueprint right here, then if you place these two against each other, you can't connect any railway. You need to replace it anyway. By doing this, you have the ability to connect if you have another one right here. So that is also a really, really good tip I have when it comes to this. But yeah, now I basically set this up, and now I can make the railway up until this point, and then I need to make the railway up until this point, and then I need to connect them. That's basically what you need to think about. But yeah, do it in one layer at a time. Make sure that you first place out where your railway is gonna go before you start finicking around with your actual railway, like your tracks. That is going to save you a lot of time. Okay, so I'll see you back when I have encircled the whole thing. Boom. As you can see, we now have the full railway going all the way around, perfectly connected up. The scaffolding, aka the measuring sticks, these ones are taken out. These are gone now. So now we have all of it set up, except we need to connect in our stations so that they can receive trains and they can send trains out. And here's a fun thing, because this is on a level, as in this is higher up than this, I need to make it like an incline. So I need to basically go, hey, if a train goes out here and it starts going up, where does it start becoming a problem? So that's essentially what I'm doing right now. I'm probably going to have to change around some of the stuff here so that we can get the correct incline and stuff like that. So give me a second, because there's a few like quirks that I need to work out for it to function. Now I have set up the connection for all of the train lines. I've also made the trains and named them. So if I go into them and press Q, I can see here what the name of the train is, and I can change that. Same thing with the stations, and that means everything is up. So what I've also decided to do is I'm going to leave a save where at the end, when everything is done, I will leave all the scaffolding in. So for those who want to look at what I've done with the scaffolding to make the railways and like set them up and make sure that they connect and everything, they can go in and look at that. But I'm also going to release a save where the scaffolding is not there, it's clean, and it's like what I wanted it to look in the first place. Let's just head on over quickly and look at what the other stations look like. So since this is in the actual factory, you can see the train line goes up very nicely. It has like this nice, very nice twisted curve here. Very, very cool. And then it goes out and it connects up to like the right-hand traffic. So it can go out to there and it can go out to there. And this is just like for a simulation of like if you have it going multiple ways. There's like, say there's another factory there, there's another factory there, and the oil needs to go in and out from different places. Then you can set it up like this so it can go both directions. Very simple. There's not going to be any crashes or any like traffic blockages, I hope. We will see though. But for now, the train lines are set up. I've also set up the drone lines, like you can see over here. There's just like one little asterisk with that. For the train lines to, or for the drone lines to run, we need fuel. But for the factory to run, we need the drones. So here's a fun little tidbit we can like keep in mind here. That is that the fuel production and the packaging and everything is entirely separate from our copper production. So we can completely set up and run our oil-based production and make everything we need and feed in here before we ever start the drones. The drones will get going once the fuel is up and running. So for once, the copper, the basic production over here is gonna be the one that starts up last. The more advanced plastic production and processing, like oil processing, that's gonna be done first. So that's gonna be real fun. You can, alternatively, if you have awesome coupons, as you can see I have 500 here, you can go in here and go to parts, and if you scroll down a little bit, if you have them unlocked, like I could put in batteries if I want to run with batteries. There's some fuel here, and here is the turbo fuel, packaged fuel, rocket fuel, ionized fuel. So there is fuel that you can get for your drones from the awesome shop if you have a few tickets left over. So there's no problem with that. But either way, we have all of our permanent fixtures now put in, which means we're moving on to the non-permanent fixtures. And we're going to start with our local lines. Okay, it's a new day for me. I started out with putting on all the path signals and block signals that makes the trains run. And if you're a new player, I'm just want to mention this very quickly. The path signals goes into intersections and the block signals goes out of intersection. This is right-hand traffic, so everything here is block signals and everything here is path signals. And the same thing is true over here. That's a path signal. But on the way out, that's a block signal, that's on the way out, so that's a block signal, that's on the way in, so that's a path signal. So that's basically, if you want building intersections, that's all you need to keep in mind. And just experiment back and forth until you start getting a hang of it. And once again, you can check out the saves, they're going to be on the Google Drive, you can just join the Discord to get access to all of that. Now, we are doing all of the more intermediate stuff, and we're gonna start out with our locals, of course. So what does that mean? It means that we need to make sure that all of our local lines are connected up to the junctions somewhat. But because we're gonna be smart about this, there's a few other things we need to do first. First of all, we need to get our trains actually running. So that's I'm counting that as a flexible point because you can change and adjust the timetables and everything to make that work. So we have a couple of things we need to do. First of all of the oil needs to be mined or like extracted. And that means that we need to pull everything from all of these over to these, and we're gonna split them so that both sides start getting oil so that we can move as much oil as possible over. And we're of course not going to be using all of it, not even close, but I want to have like everything up and running so that it like there's a potential room for expansion, which we'll be talking about later on in the conclusions. So give me a second and I will set this up. We have now set up our like division here. Okay, the next thing that I've done is I've marked out, this is the actual numbers that we need from each miner / extractor. And over here, I put the numbers over here So these are the actual numbers we need. So only one of these will be using the full amount. It's this one. We'll actually be using the full amount, 600. I've clocked everything to 600, but not everything will be used at max capacity, which means that theoretically we can probably more than double the entire factory's capacity. Like we could like put another floor up. We could like double up on, like, make sure that we have the power, and then just literally double up the production capacity of the entire factory if need be, which is really, really good for later down the line, because that means that we can take the same production numbers and literally just take that and feed into like a different factory that might need computers or more circuit boards or plastic, rubber, fuel, like whatever it is. We could take those 400 fuel and pump into, instead of packaging it, we could pump that into a power generation system instead with fuel power. So now that we have this set up, we need to basically make sure on the other end that we are extracting the oil and putting it into the factory. So let's fly over and set that up. Yeah, okay, so we've set up pretty much everything. I just want to show you one very, very important detail. These elements here, the pipeline floor hole, are incredibly bugged. Coffee Stain Studios has tried to fix them so many times, but if you're using them, it's better to just clip through the ground with the pipe like this, and then when you've like connected your pipes, then just lock and nudge it in place so it's there visually, but it doesn't apply mechanically. As we see over here, we have the power network now connected up to the computer, or the rail main breaker connected up to the computer factory power. I don't want that. So what I want to do is I'm gonna grab this, and not even that, I'm going to have a power tower. You're the main switch south. So going over, connects up, and then it connects through this, over to that, over to this, over here. And I just forgot a cable. Here's the cable. Boop. Now we have power. So now the entire rail line is powered. You can see it's green over here, it's green over here, and it's gonna be green over there. So we're just gonna fly over and check out and make sure that all the miners and everything works. As we can see, everything here is running. No, so let's check out here. This is filling up. This is filling up. They're doing their thing, no problems, no fuss, no muss. I have updated this, so it's gonna be more adaptive without me having to go and flip switches and stuff like that. So that is good. And when they are primed, we will start running the train. So just give me a second. All right, let's go through this quickly. We can see how much power we have, right? So I have a ton of power, there's no problem. We can consume over 3,000 megawatts, and that is basically just the trains, miners, extractors, train stations. It's nothing to do with the factory yet, which is why I'm like, okay, we might need a lot more power than what they said, because in the Satisfactory modeler, when we planned the factory, it did not include this into that calculation. It just went with like, how much do you need to actually run the factory? So always remember that you're going to need a lot more than what is on the planners. So yeah, but now let's set up timetable. So we have 2 trains, we have 4 stations. And what we need to check first is oil train 1. We want to set up its timetable, right? So let's edit the timetable, and we're gonna go with oil field 1 out. We're gonna want you to go here first. So you go there, and then we want to edit you. So we want to put you to 1 load, unload has been completed, or wait for, say, 90 seconds. So it waits for 1.5 minutes. And it will load only oil. And then we save, and make sure when you do this in general that you always end with save, don't just press X or escape. And now we look, both of them are set up. So now what we can do is we can turn on self-driving, and we can turn on self-driving. And by the way, all of this is available to me in any of the stations connected to the same same railway network. Oil train 1 is coming in, it's doing its thing, it's stopping. And now oil train 2 is coming in. It's basically going like, nah, I can take the turn here, no problem. Boo-ba-doo-boo-ba-doo-boo. It's gonna come in and it's gonna stop. Did I send you to the wrong station? I sent you to the wrong station. Oh, damn it. Oil in 1, oil in 2. So this one is set wrong. Timetable. Now it's going to deliver to the next one. We need to edit this. So you go to oil in 2. That is my mistake. There. So now it's going to recalculate and take a lap and then come back. Or maybe not. It seems like I need to put another block signal in here. There. I don't want them to stop just because like one of the stations are occupied. That's weird. So yeah, another block signal in, make sure that that works. These tweaks are always necessary to like, because let's build, one of my supporters said this very well in a comment on the third video yesterday, that there is no such thing as a perfect like system. Like, you will make mistakes and that's fine. Okay, I want you to know that that's fine. No one's blaming you if you make a mistake. You just tweak and you keep going, and like, you try to learn, you try to remember. And here's a good tip for learning and remembering: don't try to fix every single mistake you made in a factory next factory you build. Try to fix one of them. Pick one, fix that, and then move on. Okay. So yeah, but we have our trains set up now. Now, what do we need to look into? And we need to start hooking up our local systems and our collectors and make our junctions and stuff. So I'm gonna very clearly walk you through this. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna deal with our solids. We're gonna first connect up our belts, and that's it, and nothing else. So we're gonna take our copper, because our copper connects to the closest line for us. So we just pull that through our junction, and we go over here and have our copper be smelted over here. And as you can see, the belt is already going the right direction. I've basically chosen the direction for our belts based on where our junctions and our main lines are. So yeah, I've also set this up so that fuel will not only be fed here, it will also be fed into our outgoing, and this drone will be bringing fuel over to that site so that that site is also getting fuel just in case. And this is like a redundancy feature, just to make sure that there's always fuel in all drone stations. You don't need to do this. This is just me being paranoid when it comes to drones and fuel, because I tend to be using these when I'm moving like uranium and stuff for nuclear power plants, which means that if you run out of fuel, you're screwed. I will set this up, and I'll be back when the copper lines are done. We'll just go through those. All right, so I have essentially set up all of the copper stuff. So all of the copper that we will need will start just processing once we start getting the fuel in to the drones, and then we start setting that up and sending those over to pick up stuff. So yeah, we will have all the copper coming in and doing its thing. I have a couple of notes on my own lack of efficiency here. So what I could have done had been better in planning how these systems interact. So I could have done one of two things. One, I could have flipped the input like direction, or I could have flipped the output direction, so I didn't have to go back, like double back and then go in. That's one thing. You see, it works over here, but it does not work over here. So that's one thing that I could have fixed with the interactions. And another thing that I could have done was, in this case, I don't necessarily think I needed as much space as I have put in here. We will have to wait and see on that note though. Over here, definitely. But up here, we will have to see, because remember, there's gonna come in plastic. We have to move the circuit boards. I actually need to hook that up as well. I forgot to do that. But yeah, we need to have plastic coming in. There's gonna be circuit boards moving about as well, and stuff like that. So, hello train, choo choo. So now we need to just make sure that we have like space for that, and we need to have space for the outputs of the computers and stuff like that. So I'll like just finish that up, and not space for plastic and all that kind of stuff, but we need to make sure that we can continue connecting out everything that we need to. The output for that is also not set up, so let's fix those things. All right, so I've set up the input from the sheets and the circuit boards going into make computers, and I've also set up the output. And here's a funny thing, I'm gonna make this a sushi belt. So the total output for our entire factory is something just above 900, and the maximum belt speed we can achieve is 1200. So the sushi belt makes sense. So because it saves space, it saves resources in the game because we have fewer belts and like all that. There's a bunch of different reasons, but sushi belts for this sounds perfect. So basically I have made them go for Mark II belts, they join up here into a Mark III belt, and then they join into the main sushi output that's going to bring all the plastic and rubber and the packaged fuel and like all the stuff. So that's basically going through here all the way over, and then it connects up to our storage, where you can see this is set up so that these do overflow in any, but the center ones do this. And the reason why a lot of sushi belt enjoyers will look at this and go like, what the hell have you done? Well, the main reason why I've done this is because these are modular blueprints. So this means that I don't have to go in and change the settings for every single one that I'm making. I can just make my center a row and then connect that up to my modular storage with sinks and all that. Now we have set up all of that, which means that we need to get into the complex stuff, which is fluid dynamics, of course. Or it's not complex, but yeah, it's a thing. And I've already prepped for that complexity by having a thing in my head. Try to keep the fluid as close to the floor as possible. So instead of lifting the fluids above the belt that goes across here, I'm gonna bring them underneath, and I've prepared and put the belt one step up so that I can do this without it affecting the fluids. So these tanks should be full, they are. Are the stations also full? They are. So our system is primed to start pulling that along. So we're basically going to start here, and we're just going to move along, and we're going to diverge from the main line and with collectors out instead, to make sure instead of going all the way up to the junctions. You can see over here that I did this and I pulled it all the way down to the junction before I went into the main line. And that is just because I wanted to show these are collectors, and they are very, I could pull them straight in, but I want to keep things as clean and neat as possible. And for me to be able to do that with belts, I need to put in mergers and splitters on the main line, and I don't necessarily want to do that until I know exactly how much belt space and stuff I need. So until then, I am making sure that the belts go down, but the pipes, because the junctions and the curves and everything are so neat and they're very they have a very small footprint, I can do that without making the main line look messed up. And now let's start doing that. Yeah, so we have gotten a little bit further, and you guys can see what I've done so far. I have basically put in the pipes over here. They're all going up into this because none of those fluids are going over here. All of it's going to be used over in this area. So I've just connected all of it up. And then you have the first split off like this. You can see over here that I've done. This is basically a collector line going out to our local line that starts here. And this makes our first batch of plastic, which is the plastic that goes into our storage. So what we're going to do here, remember there's byproduct we need to deal with later, but we're going to do the input first. So here we got I say we're going to do the input first and then immediately start talking about outputs. So our final product here for the plastic goes over, connects up with this merger, and then from these two as well in it, so it has now the computers, the circuit boards, the plastic, and then it goes over here all the way down, and it merges up over here where we have fuel, packaged fuel coming in. And the packaged fuel needs to be split off, so it's going to prioritize going to the right, which goes all the way down here to our drones. I have set that up, so I'm just going to continue. We're going to have our tiny little line of 90 going in here. So I'm basically just going from what did these say. So we have like 180, 180. This is 90. So I need to look at the third one. I'm just following that pipe along, and the third one is over here, goes all the way down here. So this line is the next one that I need to pull along and connect up. So I'm basically just following the plan. The main difference now is that most of that plan has now been transferred over visually for me into the game, so I barely ever have to look at like my Notion boards or my or the Satisfactory modeler. All of that is already set up, so that I just have to like follow what I've done. I just have to follow the plan, and because I've spent enough time with the plan, I am intimately familiar with it and can very simply just do it from memory and follow the signs essentially that I placed in game, because I only color coding and stuff like that. So it becomes very simple for me, and I very rarely have to tab out. I can just free flow build, and that is very, very nice when you get to that point in the plan. So yeah, I forgot to take this one out too. Oh my god, I was sloppy yesterday. Oh my god. Past Jack needs some disciplining, I think. Okay, bringing you guys in because this is becoming relevant. As you can see, there's a lot of belts and pipes going on over here, and it's getting to the point where if I want to pull more belts out, I'm gonna have a problem over here. So what's happening now is I will simply, unless I can put it like on the bottom row over here, which I can't do on this line, or anything to the left, right? Which means that I am better served to stop trying to put it underneath here and start using this part, and or rather this and then onward instead. So the second half of the main line to move things back and forth instead. I can be much better served doing that, so I'm not gonna try and push more belts and stuff in here. To keep myself like clean, I have more space to work with, no need to try and like stuff everything in one corner. And we have a few bits and bobs left to connect in, and then we need to take care of our byproducts, and then we have a factory more or less. So we have everything in terms of the normal production setup. What we haven't done is our byproducts. However, I just want to go through it very quickly. As you can see, a lot of the belts have been changed to Mark 6 belts, and that is just to represent the whole, we always use the highest level of belts for the fastest throughput kind of thing. But the reason why I've used lower everyone else, like the blueprints that I've made, I've specifically made with the highest tier being like Mark 4 belts, so that they can be used by people without having to like go all the way to unlock time crystals and crap to be able to build these. So it's basically like a accessibility thing. I've just upgraded a bunch of stuff now to make sure that it represents what I have access to, which is Mark 6. So it's going to be as fast as I possibly can get for the throughput from through the junctions and everything. And then it's going to be the normal low speed Mark 4s that we have for the rest of the place. Now we need to clear the byproducts. All right, so as you can see, we have collected up all of our byproducts in this collector and stuff that over here. This line handles 320 heavy oil residue, and this line handles 290. So the last one here is actually underclocked to 25% to maintain like steady efficiency, which can help a lot when it comes to stability. So I've basically set all of this up. We have two things left to make this work. Number one, we need to connect up all of our power. And number two, we need to set up our drones. And I wanted to do the drones on the screen to make sure that you guys also see how that's done. So I can go for this port and copper in 1. I want you to go to copper out 1. Like simple as that, right? So bada boom. That's the port it's going to. That's its destination. This one isn't set up because it doesn't have a drone on it. You know what? I will actually set this up in like in preparation for expansion. We just need to connect up our power to all of our stuff. All of our manifold, like power manifolds, as you can see, we have them all over the place. They're already prepped. We just need to hook them up to our main power line that is going throughout the factory, which we prepped before when we set up the pathways, right? So simple as that. I'm just going to set that up, and then we turn on the power together. So the long wait is over. Everything is connected up. Now we get to the absolutely final part of all of this, which is turning on the power and doing troubleshooting. Because something to keep in mind is that you cannot do troubleshooting without power, because you need to see what works and what does not. How much power does it all use now? So our maximum consumption is over 7,000, which is over 3,000 more, about 3,000 more than what the planner told us. And that is because we have trains and drones up and running. Okay, so let's go over all of this. As you can see, is already starting to move around a bunch of stuff. It's going to be super inefficient until all of the systems have balanced out, because these are manifolds. So it's going to take a little bit. But essentially, what you should be doing now with your factory is take a look around and see, do you have any of these that are saying like, hey, we are red? That means they have no power or no recipe. If one of them is red, if they are not receiving the way they should, then you can very simply just fix that by collecting up power and stuff like that. So over here, all of these are starting to turn on. We're starting to get our like empty canisters. I just saw a mistake that I've made. I have not actually connected up the fuel line. So we're not gonna get any packaged fuel. So that's a mistake. Super important. I caught that before it. I would have noticed later, but because there wouldn't be no packaged fuel on any belts. So now I noticed because I flew over here and just saw this. All right, so I pulled a collector over and it is now feeding the fuel, and we're getting our packaged fuel. And it's prioritizing our drones, sending the fuel over, and as soon as there's enough fuel for one of them to go, they will. I'm just going to wait a little bit now. I'm flying around and double check that everything, there's yellow pins at least everywhere, and that they are turning green over time. That is essentially the final bit that you need to do to actually make your factory run. So this is going to be great. I'll be back in a second when everything is running the way they should. We are there. Let's look at this. We have 100% efficiency in every single machine in the entire factory. It is working perfectly. Let's see, did I find any other mistakes? No, it was just the fuel line. Like, that was the single mistake. And as you can see, there's a lot of free space. Once again, keep expandability in mind. I don't need to build a new factory as my need for fuel, for plastic, rubber, computer, circuit boards increases. I can just double this one up. So I can literally just put a floor on this and then build this factory again on top of that. The last thing that has nothing to do with the functionality of the factory has to do with quality of life, and that is cleaning up. So there's a lot of unused connectors here in the main lines, and there's the ramps, the scaffolding for all of this. All of that is stuff you can remove. You don't need it at all. So that's the last thing that I'm going to do. I'm just going to try and make this a little bit neater, a little bit nicer. But yeah, we're basically going to clean everything up. I'm going to leave one save. I'm gonna have a clean save, and I'm gonna have save with all the scaffolding for like all this stuff left, so that people who want to look at exactly what everything is and how I've like structured stuff, they can do that. But yeah, like I'm gonna do that, and then we're gonna meet each other in the conclusions part of this video. We are now at the conclusion of everything. I have a few thoughts. Let's just go over them slowly. We don't have any rush. If you want to leave, you feel like you've gotten what you wanted out of the video, go right ahead. I hope you enjoyed it and have fun with all the logistics. For those staying who want to hear more of my thoughts here, you've probably seen, if you've watched my videos before, you've seen some version of this, but never this detailed. The reason for that is simple. I know how to do this in my sleep, and that is boring. Like, I've literally burned myself out on this game before because of that. If I had not challenged myself, I would have burnt out, like, again. I would have permanently burnt myself out. I stray from the mark to challenge myself and get better at the games I play, at any given game, not just Satisfactory. So that's a personality, I don't know, problem for me. Essentially, I play games I'm good at wrong to see how close to still having the same results I can get as to when I'm playing right. To me, I can only do that if I have first mastered the game, so I have a baseline. So I learned the meta, I learned what works, I learned the most optimized way, and then I stray from it. What is important is I hope you walk away inspired to try new things. Maybe have a way of solving problems you couldn't before. Flex on your buddies with your superior understanding of logistic systems. And above all, help you enjoy the game. That is like my baseline. I just want to make sure that you enjoy the game, play the game the way you want to. If these videos have not achieved any of that, just disregard anything you might have learned from these videos. Then the videos and what we're talking about here, like they're not for you. They're not intentionally not for you, but they're not your style. They're not your way of thinking. So just move on and find something you do enjoy. If they have, please share them with people you think will also get something out of them. Because sharing is caring, and sharing also keeps it alive in the algorithm for a longer period of time. This is an evergreen video. This is going to be relevant for like months and months, or like years if they don't change the logistics too much. But yeah, like it's going to be good. It's going to be good. The process to make these videos has taken dozens of hours just to script, prepare, and record. And it will probably double in the editing part of the process. That's why it is so important that you guys show that you want more of these types of videos through likes, comments, and subscribing. Come on over and say hi in the Discord and have a chat. Support me on Patreon and start a conversation in one of the streams on Fridays and Sundays, like whatever it is. By showing me support, by showing me that this is something you want, I feel it is worth the effort to put into these videos. And so does the algorithm. More importantly, if you did watch this video all the way to the end and you're still here, your opinion is the most important. Tell me, what other subjects in Satisfactory do you want to see similar long-form videos about? Because I would love to make them, but I need to know, I need to have an indication on which direction to go, because there's like 1,000 different directions I could go. So with that said, for the last time, for the final time in the full logistics guide, class dismissed.